So there's been a couple of interviews and I guess op-ed pieces by Matt Taibbi. If you're not aware of who Matt Taibbi is, he's a great writer. I think a wonderful journalist. He previously worked for Rolling Stone. I'm not sure where he's working right now. He's writing books as well. He's published a couple of books. His writing is, like I said, quite good. His writing on the Great Recession was really good, right? His investigative work on the Great Recession and the origins of it, and his opinion pieces on the lack of accountability. Just great stuff. Okay, he's been on a show called Rising with Crystal Ball, some guy named Sager, one of those faux populists, kind of like Tucker Carlson, right? They sort of co-opt the language of populism, not the good kind of populism, right? Where you're actually supporting the working person. And, these corporatist slash white nationalist proto-fascists co-opt that language to make their bullshit more palatable to the general public. And it's been disappointing to listen to Matt Taibbi talk to this guy, Sager, about issues like the quote unquote Russia gate, the Russia hoax. And I just, I can't help but scratch my head about this because what aspect of the Russia controversy surrounding the Trump administration is a hoax exactly? Are we saying that the part where every U.S. intelligence agency says that Russia and Russia operatives are responsible for hacking into American systems, our political system, our energy infrastructure networks, that they tried to hack in, and they were successful actually in hacking into certain election apparatuses? Is that a hoax? Is that part of the hoax? What about where the Justice Department indicted? What are they at? I think there's somewhere around 34 individuals and 3 companies that were associated with the Russian interference effort. Is that part of a hoax? What about the indictment and conviction of various Trump officials, right? Papadopoulos, Manafort, Stone. Was all that a hoax? What is the hoax exactly? Now, they seem to be suggesting that the idea that there was collusion between the Russian government and the Trump administration is the hoax, right? That's the only thing they could be claiming is a hoax, because otherwise they're not making any sense, because they're just not dealing with reality. And the problem with that analysis, right? This idea that the claim or the allegation that there was collusion between the Trump administration and the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election, the problem with trying to say that's a hoax is there's just too much evidence to the contrary. Now, they are correct if they want to claim that the evidence is circumstantial. Okay. And circumstantial evidence is used in courts every fucking day to convict people of various crimes. Every single day. Are you saying that circumstantial evidence is not legitimate? The best that you can say is that we don't have necessarily direct evidence, but I don't even know if you can say that. there was a recent report that Paul Manafort willingly colluded with this guy, Kalimnik, who's been designated by the U.S. intelligence services as a Russian intelligence officer. And they say that Manafort was passing along polling data and who knows what else to Kalimnik. Does that not fit the the definition of collusion? I mean, I expect this kind of shit from Sager, but from Taibbi? Really? You know, again, if you want to make hay out of the fact that there's not much direct evidence, okay. But are we supposed to suspend disbelief and pretend like it was insignificant that people like Don Jr. were meeting with people that were associated with Russian intelligence services? Now, they claim that there was nothing substantial derived from that meeting or obtained from that meeting, that the talk centered around adoption. Okay, you're going to believe them? You're going to take them for their word? Proven liars? Really? That sounds pretty fucking naive. But okay, let's take them at their word. Let's say that the meeting transpired exactly as they say. There's still the fact that they had the fucking meeting in the first place. So the best that you can say is, while they were wanting to collude, while they were wanting to allow foreign interference in the election and somehow coordinate and benefit from that, that they were too incompetent to do that. And that's supposed to be proof that it was all a hoax? I don't even know where to fucking begin with this shit. You know, again, the problem is Taibbi is a brilliant guy. He's a great journalist, but he's not a fucking legal expert, right? He's just not. And again, if you want to make a distinction between direct evidence and circumstantial evidence, great, make that distinction. But to try to say that it's all a big hoax, and more egregiously, when you're trying to compare and equate Rachel Maddow with Bill O'Reilly, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Bill O'Reilly? Really? You want to say that they're both partisan? Okay, I can agree with that. Bill O'Reilly is a fucking liar, an unapologetic liar. You bring up the the weapons of mass destruction bogus argument that was used in 2003. And you say that, well, Bill O'Reilly at least says he regretted that, right? Supporting that. Is that the only instance that you have of Bill O'Reilly lying? Because you do realize that there have been various documented instances of Bill O'Reilly lying. Al Franken, had a book called Lying Liars, prominently featuring Bill O'Reilly in his various lies. I don't particularly like Rachel Maddow. To me, she's a bit too smug. But to equate her with Bill O'Reilly, I don't recall ever seeing her, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't ever remember seeing her saying that we have direct evidence of collusion between the Trump administration and Russian intelligence and the Russian government. I don't ever remember seeing that. Did she speculate? Sure, quite a bit. Everybody was. Everybody was alarmed, especially by Trump's behavior and his deference to Putin. Choosing to believe the words of Putin, a dictator, a murderous dictator, who has nothing but animus towards the U.S., choosing to believe him over your own intelligence services? That doesn't strike you as odd. Most people would say, yes, that strikes me as really fucking odd. It would strike the reasonable person that, there must be a reason for that. Now, the reason for his deference to Putin may not be nefarious. It may not be treasonous. But we don't know. Right? That's the point. We don't know. And when you add up Trump's weird behavior, including not allowing notes to be taken during his meetings with Putin, if you want to take that behavior along with all this other circumstantial evidence, and again, I wouldn't classify Manafort's behavior as circumstantial. That's direct evidence, man. It does require you to believe the intelligence services that their characterization of Kalimnik is accurate. That's true. And maybe you don't want to believe the intelligence services. Maybe you want to think that they've got some ulterior motive, they've got some motivation to characterize Kalimnik this way. I don't know what that would be. I mean, the intelligence services made this, they came to this conclusion while operating under the Trump administration's direction. So they had to know this would not be a popular conclusion to make. I don't see the incentive there, other than if it's true, right? Because if it is true, it's important to know. It's important information. So again, who do you believe? It really comes down to that. And I just find it odd. I find it strange that, when it comes to, for example, people in law enforcement murdering people of color, well, conservatives want to show law enforcement all the deference in the world. Well, we have to trust them. We don't know the whole story. We didn't see what transpired before the video. I listen to all of these arguments that conservatives make when that's the context. But when law enforcement is making accusations against someone that's conservative, particularly some wealthy conservative blowhard, oh, well, you can't believe law enforcement. There's got to be some ulterior motive. They've got to have conflicting interests, right? They must be Democrats or they must be liberals. It's a conspiracy against conservatives and Republicans, even though all the major officials were Republicans. Comey was a Republican. McCabe was a Republican. Just go down the fucking list, man. Mueller was a Republican. But yeah, okay, it was a grand conspiracy by Democrats. And I've got no love for Democrats. They're marginally better than Republicans, but they're still pretty detestable. Right? But again, it just doesn't make any sense. So, Matt Taibbi, I would say, learn how to distinguish between circumstantial evidence and fraud, please. Could you do that? It's not that hard of a distinction to make. And, if you want to continue to make claims of a Russian hoax, well, how about you tell us exactly which part is a hoax? I'd love to have that discussion. Which part is a hoax? Because if it's all a hoax, then why the hell are we indicting and convicting all these people? And of course, some people will say, well, some of the convictions resulted out of the investigation, but they weren't necessarily um, relevant to the question of Russian interference, right? These are just matters that came up as a result of doing investigative work. And that's true, right? But the point is that there are dozens of individuals that were indicted and convicted of crimes related to the Russian hack in 2016. So it's not a hoax, right? Be specific. What do you mean is a hoax? Which part is a hoax? Right? Um, I would, I'm just, I can't believe that this is coming from Matt Taibbi of all people. Again, it's people like Sager or Tucker Carlson, or who's that annoying little shit? Um, God, the sound of his voice is like the sound of cats fucking. Ben Shapiro, is that his name? He sounds like a little boy who's on Ritalin or something, like he talks too fast. Um, I would expect this kind of nonsense from them, but man, Matt Taibbi, come on, man. Really. All right.